Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has wrapped up what is a brilliant trilogy of storytelling. You really immerse yourself with the characters like a family. The intricate relationship each character has with each other is amazing. It's never the same, it's not one-dimensional. There's a reason as to why the relations are how they are because of who they are and who they were. Their interactions have nuance. It's been great to see them evolve, and the ending really captures where the characters are headed. Time and time again I'll say this, James Gunn knows how to write characters. In Guardians 3, the story focuses on the characters coming to terms with who they are, in consequence facing their unpleasant past. It shows how confronting who you are is the only way to be content with yourself. Peter Quill as the leader of the Guardians is a deeply troubled man. His life has been ridden with trauma ever since he was 8, and he hasn't been able to escape that. He has let that trauma define his life. Hell, he clings on to the very thing that reminds him of his mother and hasn't let go since. That Walkman was everything to him. His awesome Mix 1 and 2. Those music made him who he is, a man stuck in the past. This is repeated once again when Yondu gave his life for Quill. The Zoom is what he remembers Yondu by, just as that Walkman was for his mother. However, this isn't just a weakness but a strength as well. It is because of his mother and his music that he is such a compassionate man. He's no stranger to emotions, as all the songs are filled with complex emotions to have you hooked on a feeling. His compassion is what makes him a great leader for the Guardians. It's what held them together. Even though they bicker non-stop, at the end they still stick together, because at its core is the family Peter never had. His trauma is further transformed with the loss of Gamora, and even though she's back, she's not the same person. Peter struggles to come to terms with this, just as he struggled to come to terms with his past. That's why he's stuck in it. He never got over it, and this unhealthy habit makes him miserable. He's chasing something that can't be caught, a rainbow if you will, lost beyond the horizon forever. So when Mantis confronted Peter about it, he deflects. He doesn't want to face the reality that it's gone. His mother's gone, Yondu is gone, the Gamora he knew is gone. At the same time, he is avoiding those who are still there. Drax and Rocket are always there for Peter, yet he drinks himself silly. His grandfather who is on Earth, yet all these years he hasn't went to check on him or look him up. We knew damn well he was on Earth. He even stayed for Stark's funeral. Yes, I know Endgame isn't a movie about Peter Quill, but let's just run with it, as James Gunn has. Quill has been a fox on the run ever since Yondu took him. Not a run to escape from a physical threat, but from confronting his past. And finally, when he saw a picture of himself with his mother and grandfather, he realizes his past isn't all that bad. He just remembered it worse because of the emotions he had at the time. His grandfather didn't kick him out because he didn't like him. It was to protect him, just so he didn't have to watch his mother die. He can finally take on his history with a new perspective, and he opens a new volume in his life. On to Rocket Raccoon. Rocket is a very complex character. At first, he has been very closed off about his past, but we learn he didn't ask to be made, to be pulled apart and put back together. In the first movie, Rocket was a total dick. He actively shuts out everyone around him. He only has Groot, and they live in their own world, free from others. This was until Peter and Gamora came crashing in. Little does he know, but he got roped into a friendship, a family. Something we later learn he always tried to avoid. That's why in Guardians 2, he constantly tries to push everyone away, being horrible for no reason. As we later learn, he doesn't feel like he deserves this. He had lost his one and only family. He failed them. He kept this to himself, and ever since it has been digging at him. As Yondu later points out, because just a little bit of love reminds you of how big and empty that hole inside you actually is. He has a forever gaping hole in him that tells him he was meant for nothing, just a step on the High Evolutionary's path. This one belief has controlled his life. He hasn't done anything meaningful in his life despite his potential, at least not till the Guardians. He's just been a bounty hunter, collecting credits. The Guardians helped open that potential. He made a weapon that proved crucial for a Power Stone, made a bomb that killed Ego, helped build the time machine and the gauntlet, and the cherry on top, he finally saved all the other animals stuck with their tormentors. Confronting that one thing that has been stuck with him ever since, and when given the chance to kill the High Evolutionary, he didn't. That was never his issue. It was his resentment for himself, for being what he is, the one who failed. All he needed was to discover for himself that, no, he didn't fail, that yes, he is a raccoon. Not the raccoon that failed to save his friends, but the raccoon that saved the universe. That finally made up for his failures to save others just like him. It is interesting to see how Rocket has dealt with loss. On first watch of the Guardians up to Endgame, Rocket has just dealt with loss as any would expect. When he lost Groot, he was angry, depressed, and came to terms with it. Yes, baby Groot did grow, but that isn't the same Groot. Then he lost Yondu. He was a little sad. Then Infinity War and Endgame. He lost the rest of the Guardians, and he's just accepted it. In the line to Thor, you think you're the only one that lost people? What do you think we're doing here? I lost the only family I ever had. It hits different with its delivery. Initially, it just sounds like he is disappointed in Thor, but on rewatch, when he says, "Now I get that you miss your mom, but she's gone, really gone," it's much more emotional because it's obvious he doesn't want to talk about it, but the thoughts still dwell in his mind. They are gone. Lila, Teefs, Floor, all of them, and he's powerless to do anything. I like to think that after the events of Endgame, that thought really came back from the depths. That's why he took out the key card and thought about it, thinking of all the what ifs, but that isn't what he needs to learn. You don't want things to be perfect, you just hated things the way they were. Rocket finally comes to terms that he isn't perfect. He can't save everyone, but that is no reason to hate yourself, to make your existence miserable, forever stuck in the could've. Now, onto one of the best side characters ever. Nebula has always been just out of the picture, forever in the shadow of her sister. Everything she has tried, she came just short of. All she ever wanted was a sister, and that was still short-lived. Her life has been defined by actions out of her control, yet she is always to blame. Her whole life she is told she is not enough, that she needs to be better like Gamora, to be stronger, tougher, smarter. This has come to dictate how she is as a person, always pointing out the flaws in everyone, failing to see the positive and only the negative. In Guardians 2, she was constantly seen as lesser, being traded by the Sovereigns to the Guardians, changed to the ship and disregarded for the most part. It was until the Ravagers came she received any attention, but mostly because she shot Yondu. This was probably the first time where she could have made friends with people, yet she just left, consumed by a lust for revenge, forever holding on to the past, thinking by besting Gamora she would feel some sort of accomplishment. And when she attacked her for the last time and succeeded, she finally faced the truth, that she just wanted a sister. She's finally able to let go of the feud that was forced upon her, but she still has a long way to go to accept herself. Coming on to Guardians 3, there has been an obvious shift in her attitude. Her friendship with Rocket during the blip strengthened her connection with the Guardians and has joined them on nowhere. Yet her negativity still remains. Her attempt at leadership falls short due to her constant berating of her teammates, a trait most likely picked up from the Titan himself, Thanos. Her value of competence came from her childhood, and she hasn't been quite able to detach herself from that. She still has a disdain for those lesser and thereby herself as well. When confronted by Mantis about this, she can't do anything but accept that. Yes, she does hate herself, and yes, she does project that negativity onto others. At the end, she has been able to let go of that, finding a new purpose for herself, as well as uplifting those around her and seeing them for their purpose. For once, she sees the positive in Drax and was finally able to be happy. Finally, Mantis and Drax. This is a very unique case as they are polar opposites of each other. For instance, Drax is a very literal man, and Mantis is capable of complex emotional expressions. Drax also knows who he is, whereas Mantis has no clue who she is. Drax the Destroyer is a parent at heart, but when we first meet him, he is a vengeful man longing to kill Ronan and Thanos. After Guardians 1, there's an obvious shift in character. He's less intense, he finds fun in completing missions with his friends, he is able to enjoy himself. He has always known who he is. When Baby Groot was tired, he clings to Drax because of his evident ability as a parent. It was Drax who speaks from the heart and was able to connect with Mantis and change her mind to warn the Guardians. It's Drax who's always looking out for Mantis, even though she does not require it. It's Drax who calmed down the children. It's Drax who has a protective aura that makes him unable to stay put. He must make sure everyone is okay, especially Mantis, as he knows she is one of the weaker. And by no means is Mantis weak, but her uncertainty in herself makes her an easy target. The rest of the Guardians know who they are, they just hate themselves, as Mantis says. Moving on, Mantis in Guardians 2 and 3 does not experience much development. She hasn't quite been able to do her own thing like the others, and as an empath, she realizes this. Despite her love for the Guardians, she must go out on her own and find who she is. She must find her strengths and build confidence in herself. The character work of James Gunn makes the Guardians arguably one of the most memorable superhero groups out of what is a lesser-known comic. It is because of that, Gunn was able to reinvent these characters, just as he did for the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. His ability to write stories with both drama and comedy must be commended. It's what Thor: Love and Thunder should have been. I'm excited to watch his new DC project, and I hope it's as good as his work with the Guardians. In conclusion, find peace in who you are by confronting yourself and your past, explore who you want to be, and move on.